Good morning. My name is Diane K. Gelder, and I serve as the Outreach Trustee on your DePage UU Board of Trustees. We want to welcome everyone this morning to our open and inclusive virtual community. As Unitarian Universalists, we hold that there are many spiritual paths to truth and meaning, and pledge to support one another as we explore those paths. We are so glad you were able to find us and join us for our live stream services today. Please check the church website at www.dupageuchurch.org for updates. If you search under DuPage UU Church on Facebook, you will find a number of ways to be in community with us as well. We have two additional announcements this morning. Normally, this being the first Sunday of the month, we would hold Meet with Your Board after the service, but this has been canceled just for today due to the Easter holiday. Finally, from our committee chair, Dean Reschke, on behalf of our beloved community, the Stewardship Committee wishes to thank all of you for your commitments of financial support for who we are and all that we will be doing this upcoming year. We have all created hope together, and we are truly grateful and amazed.
Good morning. Welcome to our annual Easter service here at the DePage Unitarian Universalist Church. Children of the earth and sky, we are nurtured, sustained, given warmth and light from above and below. Supported by earth's strong, firm crust, we build our homes, till the fields, plant our gardens and orchards. When we turn from self and seek to be aware, we will find holy light in human faces, in blossom, bird song, and sky. Then earth is truly our home, and we are one with all earth's creatures, parents of earth's children yet to be. Those words were by Alice Berry. May it ever be so, and blessed be you all. Our chalice words this morning are from Doug Mirabali.
I light this chalice in the honor of the many changes in our lives. I light this chalice in honor of the growth in body and mind and deepening of spirit and faith we experience each day.
Please join me in saying our spoken affirmation, followed by our sung affirmation. Love is the spirit of this church, and service its law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another.
Please join us in singing hymn number 61, Lo, the Earth Awakes Again, in the gray hymnal.
So the title is How Do You Know It's Spring?
How Do You Know It's Spring?
By Ellen Fowler.
By Ellen Fowler.
When leaves begin to grow on the trees.
When the grass turns green again.
When the first flowers bloom in your garden or in the park, then you know it's springtime.
Last fall, the robins flew south, where it's warmer.
They spent all winter there. But now it's spring and the robins come back.
Birds can tell when it's spring. It's time to build their nests, lay their eggs, and hatch their babies.
Many baby animals are born in the spring.
You know it's spring when winter's last snows have melted and filled the rivers and streams with rushing water.
Or when you can go outside without a heavy coat and still feel warm.
But some days you need an umbrella to stay dry during spring showers.
And you know it's spring when you hear the crack of a bat hitting a baseball.
When you and your friends can't wait to ride your bikes or put on your roller skates.
Or have fun at the playground.
Spring is the time for farmers to plow their fields so they can plant their crops.
Now it's time to plant seeds in your garden.
Easter and Passover come in the spring.
Mother's Day and Memorial Day come in the spring.
Most adults don't get a spring vacation, but you do.
So why not go outside and play? It's spring.
It's spring. It's spring. I did it.
Please join us in singing hymn number 396, I Know This Rose Will Open. We will sing it through 3 times.
I have a story this morning. It's about the bunny who found Easter and is written by Charlotte Zolotow. One day, a little bunny woke up from a long nap alone under a tall elm tree. He heard the silence of the woods around him and wanted other rabbits like himself for company. "Can you tell me where I can find other rabbits?" he asked a sleepy old owl in the elm tree. "Other rabbits," said the owl. "Well, there are always rabbits at Easter." "Where is Easter?" asked the little bunny eagerly. But the old owl had dozed off to sleep again in the bright sun. It must be someplace in the east, thought the bunny, and he set off searching. It was a hot summer day, and the leaves in the trees stood as still as a painting against the blue sky. and the bunny found a pool of water, and down in the water silvery trout flashed by, but there were no bunnies about. This can't be Easter, he thought, and he went on his way. He came to a field full of daisies, and there was a hot summer daisy smell over the field, and the bunny's nose wrinkled. A big, slow bumblebee hummed by. But in all that whiteness of daisies, there were no whiteness of bunnies like himself. This isn't Easter, the bunny said, and he went on. Once he was caught in the summer storm. The sky looked like night. Suddenly, a streak of lightning, the color of the stars, forked through the sky. Great rumblings rolled from one end of the world to the other, and the rain came down so fast that the bunny could hardly see the mountain laurel just ahead. Slowly the rumbling rolled by. Slowly the sky brightened, and slowly the rain stopped. And he could see the mountain laurel with the wet, shining leaves, each flower cup filled with one sparkling drop of rain. But he couldn't see any other bunnies shaking the rain off their white fur. Not Easter, he said sadly, and hurried on his way. Summer was nearly over. The leaves on the forest trees began to turn brown and gold and red. Dead leaves crackled under the soft rabbit hops of the little bunny who was looking for Easter. And he stopped under a tree to rest, and a round, shiny red apple fell down and startled him. It smelled of autumn and crispness, and he took a bite into it with his two sharp front teeth. And when he had crunched the apple to its seeds, he looked around and sighed. There wasn't another bunny to be seen. And one day it began to snow. Soft white flakes drifted down from the sky, and the air was sharp and cold and still. And when he hopped through the white drifts, he left little dark footprints in the snow. But no matter which way he hopped, his footprints never crossed other bunny footprints. The little bunny was alone in a world without rabbits. There were birds, little black sparrows like ink drops in the snow. Brown squirrels leaped about in the bare branches of the trees. Once he saw a whole family of deer slipping into the forest at dawn. But there wasn't another long-eared, pink-nosed, white furry rabbit like himself to be seen. This can't be Easter yet, he thought, and his loneliness grew inside of him. And that night, the bunny curled up in a hollow tree to keep himself warm out of the wind and sharp air. And when he woke up the next morning, there was something different. It smelled, he quivered his nose and smelled hard. It smelled of greenness and warm, soft sunlight. And the little bunny felt sure he would come to Easter soon. And in the forest, the black twigs had little, tight, curled green buds. And the birds were singing high up in the trees as the bunny hopped ahead, looking for Easter. Suddenly, he saw something in the muddy earth that made him stand perfectly still with excitement. Crossing in front of him and going into the woods where he had never been were little rabbit paw prints on the ground. And he followed the paw prints very carefully down a hidden path. And there, in a clearing, he saw someone small and furry resting on a mossy bank. It was another bunny, and she had brown fur, and she had long ears like himself, and eager, bright eyes like himself. The little bunny was so happy to find her, he completely forgot about Easter. Hopping back through the forest with her, He showed her all the places he had seen on his search. At last, they came to the tall elm tree where he had first awakened to find himself alone. But now his loneliness was gone. The two bunnies were very happy together. Soon they had a whole family of little rabbits, tiny, soft, sleepy things with long, sweet ears and small, wet noses. And the bunny's heart throbbed with happiness at the wonderful earth-smelling, sunlit, bunny-filled world. "Aha," said the old owl when he saw the bunny's family. "Didn't I tell you so? At Easter time, there are always rabbits." The bunny felt his little bunnies around him, and the earth blooming beyond them, and all things growing. And he understood at last that Easter was not a place after all, but a time when everything lovely begins once again. Last year, the Reverend Joanna Fontaine Crawford wrote an article for the U World magazine. And it was just after Easter, and she was reflecting on the music that was being produced and shared during the beginning of the pandemic and how it had touched her on a deep level. She wrote about one experience in particular. It was the assembled creation of the Royal Choral Society's Messiah, performed remotely. She said it was so beautiful and such a great example of the human spirit and our ingenuity. Watching it for the 18th or 19th time, she was struck by the opening slide. And it said, "The Royal Choral Society has sung Handel's Messiah on Good Friday at the Royal Albert Hall every year since 1876, except during the Blitz." And what caught her attention was the "except during the Blitz." Well, of course, the Royal Albert Hall is located in London, and the Blitz was a German bombing campaign that destroyed a third of London. And from September 1940 until May 1941, Britain was under attack. And there are long timelines of history punctuated by significant interruptions. You know, the accept. We are now living in the accept. There will come a time when we divide time into before coronavirus and after coronavirus. But right now, we are living in the in-between. The life that we're living now will later be considered an interruption. So reading about the Blitz, I wonder what lessons it can teach us. The Blitz was a significant interruption, and many things were never the same again. Almost 40,000 British civilians died in the Blitz. They didn't know when it would end, and they were separated from loved ones, and they had to hunker down in shelters. And yet, the people were resilient. They were forced to shelter in the London Tube stations, and they organized themselves and their spaces, setting up areas for children and areas for smoking, and they figured out how to keep their areas clean and how to govern themselves. In fact, it was worrisome to some government leaders. They had reported that people sleeping in shelters are more and more tending to form committees among themselves, often communist in character, and to look after their own interests and to arrange dances and entertainments. So one detail that's very interesting is that psychiatrists at the start of the Blitz worried that there would be more psychological trauma than there would be physical trauma. They thought it was going to be much more profound, and that the separation would break citizens. But it didn't happen. There were, of course, psychological effects from the Blitz, but people turned to each other and discovered a depth of resilience in themselves. The Blitz was the accept, life returned, the Royal Choral Society returned and sang a chorus of hallelujahs. We are living in the accept. Some things will be different, but life as we knew it will largely return. The accept ultimately will be an interruption in the timeline. People will talk about how their family has always gathered for Easter or goes to the beach every June. Except, they will say.
I think it's especially apparent on holidays how much we are missing seeing everybody here. However, it's through the work and skills of a lot of volunteers and staff that we have this technical wizardry that we can try to keep everybody still together as a congregation. It was lovely this morning to see all the different faces of families and children that we hadn't seen in a while on our screen. All of this, all that we do, and the continuing maintenance of this campus so that it's here when you come back is made possible by you, our members and friends. For this, we are grateful. We are always grateful. This morning's offering will now be received. Thank you, Ira. In our invocation this morning, we heard reference to all of us being children of the earth. I really love that imagery. In our Judeo-Christian heritage, there is a story about God gathering up dust and molding the figure of man who became Adam when God breathed life into him. In Northern Europe, there is a myth about the first two humans being made from two tree trunks. In Greek, Mesopotamian, and other myths, like the Jewish story, humanity was molded from clay. In a number of Native American, as well as Sumerian and Akkadian myths, they speak of an earth mother who gave birth to humanity. And in the theory of evolution, we can find a phylogenetic tree, also called a tree of life, that posits that all life is genetically connected, going all the way back to the earliest organisms that had a very close and intimate relationship with the earth on which they lived. I love the children of the earth metaphor because the very essence of life does not exist without earth. Plants draw nutrients from the soil and carbon dioxide from the air and water from both. These plants in turn produce oxygen, provide us with food, and make the world beautiful. Animal life also relies on water and air, as each creature, humans included, moves through life, walking on our earth, flying in our skies, or swimming in our seas. Without the earth, where would we be? Without ground to walk on, would we be walking on air, swimming in water, floating in space? Without air to breathe, could we live? Without water to drink, what happens to us? When I think of these questions, it seems to me quite obvious that children of the earth is not really a metaphor at all. It's actually a truth. It is a visceral, life-affirming, and at the same time existential truth. The identity that we call children of the earth is simply who we are. Being as reliant on the earth as we are, springtime has always been a special time. New growth and vitality is apparent, and what has died off can now be considered and laid to rest. Springtime has been so important in the collective lived experiences of humanity that we've created many holidays to celebrate spring. It's fairly common to hear, and it's one reason why I'm not going to give it much attention today, but some would say that the reason for the season of Easter is the resurrection of Christ. Placed on the calendar as it is in the midst of the budding of spring, it is very easy to imagine a connection between Easter and spring. The word Easter itself comes from the Germanic Ostara, a goddess of the spring and of new life and vitality. Ostara's favorite creature was, of course, the bunny rabbit. A bunny rabbit that laid eggs, but that's a whole different story for another day. And of course, many of the children in our congregation went searching for Easter eggs yesterday. Perhaps some will be having such a hunt with family or friends today. Leaving aside fun and perhaps a little odd rituals and traditions from days of yore, let us recall this as a season of renewal. Consider that idea of resurrection for a moment. Because it's Easter, I feel I should at least mention the concept, even if it's not my focus today. We know scientifically that a living being that has truly died cannot come back to life. But it is also true that our ancestors looked at living things, especially plants, but also some animals, that would go dormant for the winter and think they were dead. And then, when those dormant plants sprouted anew, or animals awoke from hibernation in the springtime, voila, it's a miracle. That which they believed was dead was really alive. And so every springtime of every year, we see all around us the evidence of resurrection. But more to my point, we see a renewal of life, a renewal of our energy and drive to go out and do things in the world, a desire to rebuild that which may have been damaged in the wintertime. In fact, This last winter sucked. Not because of the weather so much, but because of everything happening in our world and our country. I'd say we can go back even further because it wasn't just last winter that was the season of our discontent, if I can reword a bit of Shakespeare. It was the whole last year, and many would say the last several years. It feels like there is a shift in society. We cannot see how it will turn out because we are in the middle of it. But I'd like to share a fun quote from a source I've never quoted in a sermon before, the famed British TV show and related literature in the science fiction universe of Doctor Who. And Doctor Who said, "Rebuild your world, rebuild your race, rebuild your empire, rebuild it all. But make sure you rebuild your ideals too. Rebuild the principles that made you a great and honorable galactic power in the first place. Don't prey on the weak, don't steal from the helpless, don't murder the innocent. Be a force for good, not a force for yourself." Okay, so we don't have a galactic empire to worry about, and thank goodness, since we're struggling to run things here on Earth. However, I appreciate the sentiments. We see before us in this springtime and new administration in D.C. a time of renewal and opportunities for rebuilding. This should start, as in the quote, with rebuilding our ideals. We use often say what we stand for, upholding the inherent worth and dignity of all people, protecting the democratic process, building world community, and recognizing that as children of the earth, we are part of a greater whole, the earth and all life, and we are custodians of this earth. We cannot and should not selfishly use up the earth's resources or pollute it. We should not leave children in cages at the border. There is much for us to do, and these are just two examples. So here is the challenge. In this springtime in which we wish to be content, we must instead turn to rebuilding society once the pandemic is truly under control, our government is in the hands of saner people, and we now see hope on the horizon. As I've said before, when we see hope, we must grab it, hold on, but more than that, we must then foster it and help it to grow and thrive. Hope is not a thing that exists in a vacuum. If we have hope that the world can be better, it is up to us to work to make it so. This is our job. Now that we are coming, let's say we're coming out of a year of hibernation, hopefully beginning to feel a sense of renewal and new energy flushing through us. It is time to build the lives and world we want to live in. Let us do so together. May it ever be so, and blessed be you all. Our closing hymn is number 1000 in the Teal hymnal, "Morning Has Come."
The light of hope shines.
Children of the earth, lovers of life, each week we share time together virtually and a passion to see that each and every person has access to all that is good in the world. In this burgeoning springtime, we are sharing in the beauty of life, feeling a sense of hope, and wishing the same for everyone. May any blessing you have received in worship today be embodied in the coming week, and may you share these blessings with any who have need. May it ever be so, and blessed be you all.